guys, Matt, Irontrap Garage, working on the free T again. So in the last couple of videos, you know I've mentioned that we are getting close to a point where we're going to be doing bodywork and paint on the body of the free T, and I need to tie up all my loose ends of little things I've been sort of either forgetting about or avoiding. I have a long punch list of stuff that changes daily and I keep adding to it, and we've been doing pretty good of knocking out those things. So the next thing that I need to get to, is something I've been sort of avoiding, is the gas pedal on the car. As you may remember earlier in the build, I built a pretty intense transmission tunnel, really just to challenge myself. It could have probably been done a more crude or simple way, but it was kind of fun for me to make it. And the only thing is, because the car's channeled so hard and I actually built a tunnel and didn't just leave the trans open like some of the cars you'll see with some of the T's, it's caused a little bit of an issue with the foot room. Now I modified a set of pedals early on in the project to make sure that I could get clutch and brake pedals in there, and they're working pretty well. I may need to heat and tweak them just a little bit before everything's set and done, but there's not a lot of room for a gas pedal. So what I'm going to do is work on making a gas pedal today for the T. That's a spoon style gas pedal. Earlier I dug through my parts bins to see if I could find a gas pedal for the car, and I wasn't having too much luck, to be honest. I either gave them away, sold them, I don't know what I did. Probably last summer I had 10 spoon pedals, and somehow now I have 0. So what I'm going to do is build one from scratch. I was going to have to modify an original anyways, so why not just build one from scratch? There's not a lot to it, and I'm going to be changing some things on it. So the big difference is that the engine is really close to the firewall on this car, and unlike a normal mounting of a spoon gas pedal on a Ford, there's usually the whole outside mechanism, that their arm that moves is outside of the engine bay, and the pedal just goes inside. On this car, there's not enough room to put that arm outside, and honestly I think the arm would end up being like up above the cowl, which I don't want. So what I'm going to do is build a pedal that's kind of that style, but mounts inside the firewall. I'm going to keep the arm that's on the pedal that the linkage attaches to attached to the pedal, or I'm sorry, inside the firewall, and we'll attach the linkage and it'll go through the firewall. So what I'm using today, my supplies, when I dug through my parts bin, this is a really fun one for me because I think this is what the essence of this channel and what we're trying to do with traditional hot rodding and doing stuff like the old way, is building custom parts from scratch using either old Ford parts or extra metal that you have laying around, raw materials, and building into something that's custom and looks pretty cool. So that's what we're going to use. So today I grabbed a bunch of different mechanical brake rods from early Fords at 3 different lengths here. So hopefully I can use the short one. If not, I have a couple different other lengths there. I grabbed a bunch of different throttle rods that have these little spring clips on it for the ball and socket style throttle linkage, which is what I like to use because it kind of keeps that old look to the engine bay instead of using like Heim joints or something like that. And I got some 1/8" plate that we're going to make a bracket out of for the pedal to go through and actually pivot on and mount to the firewall. And then finally I have some 3/16 plate that I'm going to cut up, and that'll actually become the spoon portion that you'll put your foot on. So I'm going to start chopping all this up and bending and heating and see what we come up with in a few minutes. All right, you saw that I got the bracket all made and I got the holes drilled in the firewall and I got the bracket bolted down, and I also made up the first portion of the gas pedal. So this is the upright here that's going to actually, the linkage will connect to, go through the firewall and pull on the carbs. So what I realized as I was making that is I wanted to make it so that I could service this piece in the future. If a part wears out or it doesn't work or something gets a little messed up, I want to be able to take it all apart and service it. Something I've been trying to do when I'm building cars is think of what it'll be like when I have to take the car apart, and I don't want to have to take a cutoff grinder and cut this to pieces if I want to take it apart. So I decided to make it 2 pieces. So this is the part that goes through the bracket and in the upright, and I needed to put something on here to attach the gas pedal arm that comes down that you actually press on. So just dumb luck, and it's something I just decided to try. I looked at the eyelet on one of the ends of the brake rods and was like, wow, that looks really close to the size of the diameter of the rod itself. So I ran a drill bit through it, and who would have thought it fits pretty nice. So I can clean this up just a little bit more, but we actually want it to be kind of tight like that so that as it wears, it won't have a ton of slop in it. But that's pretty good. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this eyelet on the end here. I'm going to drill and tap it for a set screw, a real tiny little, like 1024 or something, set screw to go through here. That will basically lock it in place, or I might even just drill it and put a pin all the way through, like the original Ford ones. They had like a rivet or a pin through there that was pinned over and it was locked in place, but I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do yet. And then what I can do is take this rod and bend this to my desired length and angle to get it sitting just where I want, which is pretty cool. So I'm going to cut it off right at this little section here, and then I could start kind of bending and tweaking it to get it so that it sits kind of how I want, and then I could sit in the car and start figuring out exactly where I want the little spoons portion to be welded on. Okay, so I got this first pedal kind of made up. I really did it freehand. I didn't really make a pattern ahead of time with the welding wire, so I just kind of did it and see what I could make it kind of naturally flow. And while it does have plenty of travel here, it kind of sits a little far off the tunnel, or further than I would like, and it's really like visible when you look inside the car. With this being a roadster, obviously you can kind of see everything, so I want the pedal to probably flow a little better. So this first design isn't exactly what I'd like, but it does kind of prove the concept that I can get a pedal in here and there's enough room for my feet, and I'm actually pretty happy with that. Now that I actually have a pedal kind of as a placeholder in here, I can see that I do have just enough room to put the gas pedal in there without having to go crazy chopping up these pedals here more than they already are. So I'm going to leave this one alone, and I'm going to take my extra brake rod that I have and bend up another one, but I'm going to try and do a design where it kind of does a hard 90 right off the firewall, gets it close to the steering box, and then drops down and kind of goes right against the tunnel. I think that'll be a little less noticeable and will kind of be just hidden a lot more. So I'm going to keep this one just in case I want to go back and modify that one. That's the nice thing about having a bunch of extra parts, is you can You can do something like this where you can make one, put it aside, make another one, and then make a decision. And we have extras to go on. So I'm gonna pull this one off, try and make another one, and we'll see which one I like best.
In the last clip, Matt mentioned that he didn't like the design and flow of the first pedal that he made. So here he is starting on a second design. After finishing this design, he realized he liked the first one a little bit better and it just needed a few tweaks to finish it out. So he made those adjustments to it and then continues on building a spoon for the bottom portion of the pedal.
All right, so that was one of those projects that I talk about where the video is fairly condensed, and the work that it took to get it just right to this end point is pretty intense. And it was probably a matter of me working on this gas pedal setup 2 or 3 days, not full days, but 2 or 3 like batches of work to get everything right. I had to walk away a little bit because of as figuring out all the angles, it just wasn't working out. You saw in a shot where I was saying I thought I had it figured out, and I was going to do a Z section into the pedal, and that would be perfect. And I made that little bend, and then I held it up, and I was like, what am I doing? I can just move the pedal out, make the shaft longer, move the pedal out, and then I'd have a straight shot where the pedal didn't do all kinds of crazy Z's and weird stuff. So I got it pretty good. I'm really thankful that I made that little blister area, if you'll call it that, where I gave myself some room in the tunnel where I sunk it in against the side of the trans. That worked out perfectly because that was just enough room that you can get your foot, the toe of your foot in between the brake and the tunnel, and you can get full throttle, and also it comes back to idle, and it's fairly comfortable for what this car is. Now, one thing you guys may notice that I'm messing with, that I've been doing in between episodes, is I actually adjusted the steering down about 5 or 7 degrees to get the steering more in my lap rather than more up like a tea bucket. But then also what I decided to do, and I just have some stuff clamped in here as I'm doing the pedal, I have the steering column lengthened a little bit because it gets it a little more comfortable for me. Before I was kind of out like this and it felt a little awkward for me. So I'm trying to make these last little changes, even though it's a little frustrating to go, not backwards, but to go back into stuff that you already kind of did. It's definitely necessary because I don't want to have something where I'm leaning over like this to try and drive it, and it's really uncomfortable because I really don't want to have to cut into this thing once it's painted. So trying to make these last minute changes now before we start doing body work. So now that I have kind of the length and angle of the column all figured out, even if we're doing body work one night when I have some time, I can make up a new column section and get it working now that I know how long it needs to be, and I got it all bolted back in the car at the correct angle. Pedals all fit pretty good. I'll just have to do my final adjustment of the height of the pedals once everything's hooked up, and I can make my linkage adjustable so that when I'm working the clutch and brake, I'll just adjust it to get the height just right. But right now, I'm pretty happy with it. Like I said, I can get full engagement of the carb, and I have it hooked to the right side of the first carb. I actually checked the throw of everything with another just standard 97 that was just in good working order, that wasn't touched, because these ones are all kind of a little stuck and they've been modified and they need to be gone through, and I didn't trust that the linkage was all correct on them. So I threw a stock one on to make sure that where I'm connecting had the right throw and everything fit. Works great. So that's pretty much all I have for this one. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this build and showing you guys some of my decisions that I was trying to make throughout. Some of the ones I had in throughout the video. I tried to give you guys updates of stuff that what I thought was going to work, and it's kind of like as I'm doing it, you guys are seeing the thought process, and sometimes the ideas aren't that great and you got to step away for an evening and you come back and it's way more simple than you were thinking. But another thing we nailed off the list, and we can move along, and we're counting down to our weekends to do body work in March. I think we're at like 2 or 3 weeks till we have to start doing that, so I really need to bust out a little bit more stuff before we start tearing it down to do body work on the body. That's all I have for this one. I appreciate you guys following along. As always, we do videos on Tuesdays, Fridays, and Sundays. If you guys like the videos that you're seeing, all we ever ask is that you share with your friends so we can get some more people watching these videos and engaging with us. Thanks guys, appreciate it. Catch you later.